Hey, shalom. Welcome back to Listen and Learn Hebrew. Today we will be continuing working through the book of Judges from the Nevi'im, from the prophets in Tanakh. And this is our auditory learning day. So you can close your eyes and just listen if you like, or keep your eye on the road if you're driving to work or something like this. Just try to think of the words, to try to understand them as much as you can. And if you don't get it all, or even if you don't get lots of it, that's all right. This is part of gradually immersing ourselves into Lashon HaKodesh. Avinu Malkeinu, כן יהי רצון, כי בלילה הזאת אני יכול לדבר רק כי אתה רוצה. תעזרנה אותי, אדוני, לדבר דברים טובים בעיניך, כמורה טוב ממך. תשלח להלכך עלינו, אדוני, כי אנחנו יכולים ללמוד טוב. לעולם ולך יהיה כל הכבוד. All right, let's get started. I won't be drawing anything on the screen. Don't want to distract you. You can look if you need to, or you can look at your own Bible there. If you have a hard copy you want to look at, that's also fine. So briefly, let's just review what we did last week. So this is Judges chapter 3, verse 18. And I won't go too slowly on this because this is review. All right? Vayhi כאשר קילה להקריב את המנחה, וישלח את העם נושאי המנחה. And it was כאשר קילה, when he finished להקריב, presenting or bringing near, et המנחה, the offering, וישלח, that he sent out, et העם, the people, nosei ham-mincha, who were carrying the mincha, the tribute, the offering. Verse 19, Vehu shav min hapesilim asher et hagilgal. And he himself, or while he shav, that's from yashav, pardon me, that's from shuv, shin vav beit, return. Vehu shav, and he returned, min hapesilim. So he himself returned from the chiseled out images. Asher, which et hagilgal, or at Gilgal. Vayomer, and he said, Devar seter li elecha ha-melech. Then he said, a secret matter I have, elecha, unto you, or for you, O king, ham-melech, literally the king. Vayomer, and he said, hush, hush. Vayetzeu me'alive, and they went out from with him. Kol ha'omedim alive, everyone who had been standing with him. Verse 20. Ve'ehud, or Ehud, ba'elive. Vehu yoshev ba'aliyat hamekera. Then Ehud entered alive unto him, alive. And while he was Yoshev, sitting, ba'aliyat hamekera, at the upper chamber of the cooling, asher lo, where he had, or where to him, levado, he alone, which he had for himself, something like that, alone. Vayomer Ehud, then Ehud said, Devar Elohim li, or it could be Devar Elohim li elecha. A word of God, or a word of God's, a divine word, li, I have, elecha, for you. Vayakom me'al hakisei. Vayakom, and he cumed, he stood up, he arose, from al upon Hak the kisei, the throne. Okay, so that's the review from last time. If you want a more detailed breakdown, make sure to check the previous teaching on this. If you don't want to have to search for it in the language lab playlist, because that kind of has all of them, right? Judges and Exodus and First Kings and Koheleth and sometimes Psalms in the order in which we did them. You can just check the Listen and Learn Judges playlist, all right? And it'll be the one from just before this one. All right, getting on to new stuff for today. We start with verse 21. Yay! Verse 21. I just need to take a quick drink. Maybe you can. Oh, never mind. Don't scan. Just listen. All right. Verse 21. I will scan it first and then we'll break it apart. Vayishlach Ehud et yad semolo. Vayikach et hacherev me'al yerech yemino. Vitka'eha bebitno. Okay. First word. Vayishlach. Vayishlach. So shalach, shin lamed chet, that's to send. And the yu at the beginning, the yod, means he. Yishlach is an imperfect. It means he is sending or he will send. But we have a vav conversive. That's the va there. It's serving a conversive function. It's going to change it from imperfect to perfect, which means usually it's done already. It's complete. So instead of yishlach, he will send, it means va yishlach, and he sent. Who sent? Here comes the subject, Ehud. Ehud. Then Ehud sent et. So that's the definite direct object marker. We don't translate it, aleph tav. And now we have a construct chain. There's two words. Yad, so that's hand of. Semol, that's left, and it has a suffix. So by the way, left is spelled sin, mem, aleph, lamed. Semol. You might be familiar in the Torah. It says, don't turn yamina to the right or semula to the left. The ah at the end means towards, direction towards, like home word. It's like word, W-A-R-D in English. I want to be home, word bound. Okay, I want to be semula bound. No. So semol, left of semolo, So yad, semolo, because that last word is definite, it makes the whole chain definite. So the O at the end, his left, is going to say, yad, semolo is going to say, well, literally it's saying the hand of his left. So we would just translate that in English as his left hand. We have shik. Okay. Again. Vayishlach Ehud et yad semolo. Then Ehud shalacht yad semol hand, the hand of his left. So his left hand, remember he's a lefty. Vayikach So in ancient Hebrew, this would have been yilkach. Yilkach. The verb is lamed, kof, some say kuf, chet, lakach, which is to take or to acquire, to buy. Lakach. The yu means he. Yukach. There's a dagesh in the kof to show the lamed is hiding in there. So yukach, he will take, or he is taking. Again, we have a vowel conversive. Vayikach means, and he took. So vayishlach Ehud et yad semolo. Then Ehud sent out his left hand. Vayikach, and he took. Et ha-cherev. Et. Aleph tav, we don't translate. Ha means the. Cherev. Chet. Resh. Beit. This is a sword. This is a sword. Vayikach. From vayilkach. And he took et ha-cherev. The cherev. Ha-cherev. Ha, sword. He took the sword. Me-al. So the next word, it's a contraction of two words. Min, like we say in the bracha, Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, who brings forth bread or food, min, from the earth, right? Min means from, but you can contract min, it can combine with the next word, if that noon will assimilate. It will go inside the next letter and double it. But an ayin cannot be doubled. The next word is ayin lamed. You can't double. Ayin, how would you do that? You can't double the ayin, okay? So instead, the dot, the dagesh that would have gone into the ayin, he comes down and he lengthens the I in min. Mi becomes me. From a short vowel, mi, to a long vowel, a, tsere. So me, al, you could have written that as min, al. Instead, it's me, al, from, that's the me, from, al, upon. So what's happening? Yishlach Ehud et yad semalo. Then Ehud sent out his left hand, vayikach et hacherev, and he took the sword, me'al, from upon. And now we have two more words in a construct chain. Yerech, yerech, yod resh, kaf, sofit. Yerech means thigh. So from upon, me'al, from upon, yerech, thigh, and it's in construct, of yamino. So up above, or previously, we just had yad semalo, hand of his left. Now we have yerech, yamino. Yamin, it's from yamin, it means right. R-I-G-H-T, right. No problem, right. So this is why the country Yemen is called Yemen, because if you're facing to the east, Yemen is on the right. It's on the right. And if you paid attention to the Torah portion we had last Shabbat in the ancient triennial cycle, we had the two different mountains, right? Gerizim, right? And Ebal. And Gerizim is for the blessings because it's on the right. If you're facing east, it's on the right-hand side. And the left-hand side is not where the blessings are, right? Similarly, the right hand of the Lord comes and vindicates his people, both metaphorically and pseudo-literally. And his left hand is usually not what you want to receive. He holds you in the right hand, but the left hand is for the oyevei Elohim, the enemies of God. So Yerech, thigh of Yamin, right of O. Yamin O, right of him. So Yerech Yamino, his right thigh. Vayikach. So that's lakach. Then he took et ha-cherev, the sword, me'al, me, from, al, upon, yerech, yamino, thigh of, right of him. And two more words left for verse 21. The next word says, vitka'ha. Okay, so the verb is taka, or thaka in ancient times, thaka. It's tav, kof, or kuf, however you like to call it, and ayin. So taka, if you remember, on Rosh Hashanah, if you listened to the announcer before the shofar blowers, we had 5 shofars at our shul. That was great. The announcer will say, Tekiah, Tekiah. Right? That's a kind of taka. So taka can mean to blow, like to blow a shofar, or to thrust, right? Like to thrust a weapon. We kind of have this in English, right? He dealt him a nasty blow, right? Oh, what, right? It's kind of similar. So taka is to thrust. Okay? This says vitka. Pardon me, vitka'e. Ha! Okay, so the you, that's he. That's the yod. He, yitka, that's he will thrust, or he will blow. A ha. The ha is her. Her. And you might not notice it looking at it, but the word cherev for sword is actually feminine. I don't know why. So that's why it's her. So it, he thrust it. But yitka'eha is he will thrust it. But we have that vav changing things around. So instead of he is thrusting it or he will thrust it, in an imperfect, the vav is going to change it to a perfect. Va yitka'e. ka'eha, and he thrust it, or he thrust her, meaning the cherev, the sword, and he thrust her, bevit no, all right. There's a bait at the beginning. Bait means in. It can mean lots of things. The most common meaning is in, and that's what it means here, in. And then the next word is kind of garbled because the vowels changed. The word is beten. Bait, tet, nun. Beten is belly, beten, belly. Okay? But it changed when we put the o suffix at the end. O meaning his. Just like the word melech, if I want to say his king, oh, that's different. That's Malko. Why does this one go to beat? No. Yerich, Yaakov. Oh, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure why this one goes to a chirik instead of a ah. Why wouldn't it be bat? No. Interesting. If anybody knows, leave me a comment. I know we have other Hebrew teachers watch the channel sometimes, so if any of you guys know, let me know. Let me know. I'd love to hear the morphology on this. My guess is going to be that it's just an ancient. That's just the way that it was written in ancient times. So it's reverting back to its ancient pronunciation when it's in the construct. So, all right. Into Vitn, the beten of into his belly. Last two words again. Vayit kaeha, and he thrust her or it be into Vitn, that's the beten, the belly of into his belly. Okay. Yeah, it threw me off with the beten there because it's a segalit, and segalits like Yerech. If I want to say his thigh, I wouldn't say Yirko, I'd say Yako. Melech is king, his king would be Malko. So it's kind of interesting that it's beats. No, I mean, it totally looks right. I just never thought about it before why it's that way. Okay, one more time through a bit quicker. I'm just going to read through it now without translating, okay? So you just kind of process. Vayishlach Ehud et yad semolo. Pardon me, semolo. Let's be consistent. Vayikach et hacherev me'al yerech yamino. Vitka'eha bevitno. All right. Any comments or questions? It's okay if you're just keeping your eyes closed and you don't want to interact that way. I'm going to change to the next verse. You can have a look at it while I take a drink. All right. Judges chapter 3, verse 22 in the original Hebrew. Let's scan it first. Vayavo gam hanitzav achav halahav vayisgol hacheliv be'ad halahav kilo shalaf hacherev mibitno ויצא הפרסדוניה. Haparsedona. That's a hapaxlegomemnon. That word only occurs one time, and it's kind of a mystery what it means. No one is really sure. All right, let's break it apart. Va yo vo. So the verb is bo, beit, vav, aleph, and the vav is gone. It's a hollow verb, which means it's got a yod or a vav as a second, the middle root letter, and those disappear a lot of times, leaving it hollow, like a hollow log. Right? So we just have the beit and the aleph. This means to come or to arrive or to enter. Right? The famous saying, Baruch haba b'shem Adonai. Blessed is he who who comes b'shem Adonai, in the authority of Adonai, or in the name of Adonai. Okay? Or ve'avo, Mashiach. Yeah. You know the very famous Hasidic song about Mashiach, may he come soon, speedily in our days. So, Yovo. So, Yovo means he will come. Ve'avo, that's a bit different than Vayavo, right? Yavo means he will come or he is coming, or he will enter or he is entering, or it. Okay. And then the vav is a vav conversive. We're going to change that again. So instead of imperfect, yavo, he will come, or it will enter. We have va, and yavo, and it entered. Gam, also. Okay, now this is interesting. You'll notice this is masculine. It entered. If we were still talking about the chevev, the sword, we would expect vatavo with a tav there. That could either mean you entered or she entered, right? Because the sword was feminine. But it's masculine here. So it's not that. The subject is coming up. What's the subject? Gam han nitzav. Gam. Gimel men. Gimel mem. Also Han Solo, no, Han the Nitzav. Nitzav, it's related to the root Natzav, like to take a stand. That's the hilt. So also the hilt, meaning the part of the sword that you hold on to, and it kind of part of it goes perpendicular. So Va Yovo Gam Han Nitzav. Also, and also the hilt entered. Acha. Acha, Aleph Chet Resh means after. Hal Lahav. Hal, the, Lahav. Lamed, He, Vav. So Lahav is the blade, right? The blade, like the metal part of the blade, the metal part of the sword, rather, more specifically, right? We mentioned last time that the hey, the mouth, that's the sharp part of the sword, right? And Lahav is in general the blade, right? The whole blade, even if one side's sharp and one isn't, or both sides are sharp, like this one is, both sides are sharp. Lahav also means flame. Flame, right? So if you want to get kind of 2 for 1 with your vocabulary here, Lahav is flame. A flame, and it's also the the metal part of the sword, the blade. It's the blade. Interesting, right? So the flame is the part of the sword you stick in your enemy. Stick him with the pointy part. All right. Vayavo gam hanitzav achar halahav. Also, the hilt entered after the blade, after the flame. Halahav. Achar halahav. Next word. Vayisgol. 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 So that we know that's he. And he sagar. This is a samich gimel resh. Sagar is to close, right? Like I could say, Segor et hadelet bevakasha. Please close the door, right? Segor or segor na. Close now. Close, please. Et ha delet. Close now the door. So sagar is to close. Yusgol means he is closing or he will close, right? It's imperfect. It's not finished yet. By the way, if this is too fast, you can always slow me down, even if you're with us in the Premiere. Click the gearbox up top, click playback speed and 0.75, whatever you need. Okay. So the Vav conversive is going to change it from imperfect, he is closing or he will close, to and he closed. It's perfect now. Perfect. Vayusgol, and he closed. Okay, or it closed. Ha-chalev. Ha-chalev. Ha, the chalev. Chet, lamed, bait. This is fat. We have a few different words for fat in Hebrew. Deshen, shemen, what do you think? Pedel. Yeah, there's a lot of different words for fat. So, chalev, this is like the fat which is on the organs, usually, right? So it's forbidden if it's on an animal for consumption, because it's part of what's burned up in the sacrifice for Hashem. It like belongs to Hashem. So that's the fat that's not kosher. A lot of times people, they ask me, like, especially if they're new to keeping Torah, How is it possible, Rabbi? Like, how are we supposed to get rid of all the fat? Like, if you eat beef or something, you see it's marbled oftentimes, right? The problem is a translation problem, because English, I mean, we have other words for fat too, right? You can say suet, suet, and all that kind of stuff. But usually people just think of fat, or the translation will just say fat. So it's the chaylev that's forbidden. It's that organ, big clump of fat that's on the organs. Fat that's marbled in the meat or just connected to the muscle or something, that's permitted. That is kosher. What's not kosher is the stuff that's on the organs. That's the chaylev. Okay. Be'ad halahav. Be'ad. Be'ad is a little bit strange here. It's like on account of, right? Because of. Hal lahav. Because of the lahav. Hal the lahav. Because of the flame. Because of the blade. Hope the sound is okay. I'm using my Blue Yeti today because I haven't figured out why the strangeness happened on Shabbat. So, hachaylev, that's the fat that's on the organs. Be'ad, on account of hal lahav. Hal the lahav, the blade or the flame. Ki lo, ki, because, lo, lamed aleph, lo, not, shalaf, hachaylev. So, shalaf is what you'll see when someone unsheathes their sword, he shalafs it. You'll see, like in the Book of Kings and such. Sheen, lamed, pei, or fei, sofit. Shalaf is like to unsheathe. So it's understood this is to pull out. Ki lo shalaf, for he did not shalaf, pull out, or because he did not shalaf, he didn't pull out ha-cherev, the sword. And by the way, grammatically, we would have expected et ha-cherev, just so you can notice. Right? The text isn't always grammatically as one would expect. Whichever scribe wrote it down, this is his style, and he didn't feel he needed the et there. Okay? So, look, give him a break. It was like 4,000 years ago. Lo shalaf ha-cherev. He didn't extract the sword. From where? Mib. So that's min, became mib. From bitten, that's beten. Stomach of, mib bitno. From stomach of him, from his belly. Mi bitno. Vayetze, or vayetze. That's from the verb yatzah, to go out. This is the root that is in the Hebrew word for Exodus. Yetzia. Yetzia is Exodus, or famously the Yetzias Mitzrayim. That's the Ashkenazi pronunciation. Yetziat Mitzrayim, the going out of Egypt, the going out from Egypt. Yetze, it will go out, or he will go out. And then we have the vav conversive, changes it. Vayetze, and it went out, and he went out. And here it's going to get interesting. Hapal sedona. Hapal sedona. Now, like I said, this is a word that only occurs one time in the entire Hebrew Bible. And it's a little bit, well, there's argument about what's going on here. All right, so the peris, the first part, well, that's the peris. Well, pardon me, perish. Well, that would make sense to be dung, right? Perish, that's dung. So ha parshadona. Sorry if I read that as a scene. Again, it's you're not. It's not a word you're going to see a lot. It's just one time in all of Scripture. So Rashi explains it by leaning on onkelos. And Targum onkelos assumes that this is kind of a compound word, right? He assumes that this is perish, which again, dung. And then the next word he assumes is shafach, to spill out, but an Aramaic form of it. Shada, sheen dalet aleph, right? which is like to ooze. Shafach in Hebrew is to spill, right? So you could just be literal, hyper literal. So onkelos in the Aramaic translation understands, pardon me, not onkelos. There's no onkelos translation of Judges. Onkelos is only the Torah. Sorry, Yehonatan. Yehonatan. Targum Yehonatan assumes this to be Peresh Shafach. And then it was kind of, it's got the older Hebrew word root there. The Sadah became Sadah, and the Aleph is just kind of gone. But what's confusing is why does it have the not at the end? So if we, or the ah, if we assume this is Parsedon or Parshadon as the word, then the ah at the end would be a hey locative. It's a direction towards. So the thing that's oozing out shouldn't have a direction towards it. Like it's oozing out, like the excrement or the undigested matter in the stomach. Yaitse, it went out towards itself. So even though many translations assume this is the excrement or the dung or the filth, I think JPS says the filth, there's still some question to this. Like, but why is it going out with a hey locative, with a directional hey at the end? You see what I'm saying? It's a bit strange. So there are some who think that this is actually something like this. This kind of an interesting theory. I can't remember which scholar put this theory forward. Anyway, I'll try to find it later for you. So the theory is that, again, leaning on the root perish, dung, that this is like the whole, like the king had his private room where, again, there was some question about that if you remember last week, the upper cooled chamber, like why would it be cooled if it's upper? That's where heat goes. Maybe there's wind that could go through, or maybe it was a private, he said it's a private place just for him, right? So there was even some speculation that that might be like he's got his own lavatory in there or something, right? But why would he have like a guest in there? It's kind of strange. But again, I kind of hinted last time that maybe he was a Fagala, and maybe he's kind of, hoping that Ehud, or maybe Ehud even leaned him on, like, hey there, handsome. Who knows? And so that's why he took him up into his private room that also had his own bathroom in there, right? To get some privacy, like a privy. Let's say a privy. And so, if that's the case, then that would lend more credence to this other theory that this is actually the dung hole. This is actually like the like there was a hole where the waste would go out from the room. And it's kind of gross to think about it, but Ehud wants to live, and so maybe, and this would explain why there's the halocative. So instead of the Yetzeh, instead of it being the chalev, the fat that's yetzing, that's coming out, that's extruding, that's oozing, it could be this is Ehud making his escape. Right? I mentioned before that oftentimes biblical Hebrew can be ambiguous on the antecedents of pronouns. So you don't know who's doing the thing always. Usually context makes it clear, but this is an example of a place where it's a little bit obscure. And I kind of like this theory. I mean, I like it and I don't like it. I don't like the idea of him having to go through Shiza, but maybe it explains the ending there, right? But there's another problem. If you argue with me, you say that I mean, it could be a textual corruption, right? That's kind of the last. I always like to make that the last thing we go to. I don't want to jump to problems with the text. If we have other explanations, this is one reason why I love Mitchell Dahoud's commentary on the Psalms so much. Is a great scholar, but he doesn't just jump to emendations like some scholars, some liberal scholarship is so willing and ready to change the text willy-nilly. He saves it as a last resort, right? And oftentimes gets creative with the explanation. So if this is the ending of the word and it's not a halocative, then this is a feminine word. And then it can't be vayotse if it's oozing out of him. It'd have to be vateitse. It'd have to be, and she went out. What's the she? Haparshadona, right? Because it's a feminine then. So let's treat it like it's a halocative, like it looks like. And this weird word that nobody knows what it is, the Septuagint just leaves it out. Septuagint just like ignores it, doesn't even get into it. Well, actually, Ralph's A doesn't. One of the variant Septuagint texts does, and I try. What does it use? It's interesting. It uses a Greek word that sounds similar to this. So I'm going to consult a commentary on Judges 1 through 12 by the Jewish scholar Jack Sasson. Jack Sasson. His last name means joy, like happiness. And he says that Ralph's B has a sentence that fearlessly duplicates what follows, albeit using different vocabulary. And then he puts the Greek down. Kai exelfen aod tain, and here's the word. So the Hebrew word hapar shadona, but in an unpointed text, it could look like hapar sedona, like I was reading it the first time. Okay. In the Greek, prostada. Hear that? Parsdona, prostada. Hear it? Similar, right? Ehud exited the vestibule, using a word that sounds like the Hebrew, but with a meaning reminiscent of what later will ensue. So it's kind of mysterious what's going on here, guys. Yehonatan just says also filth went out, right? So that's the best we can do. Sometimes there are these biblical mysteries. I personally think it's telling us that he goes out through this thing, and then the next verse is going to give us more details about what the thing was that he went out of. Okay, we'll do one more verse. Verse 23. Vayetze Ehud hamisderona vayisgor daltot ha'aliyah ba'ado v'na'al. Okay. So let's pick it apart one at a time. Vayetze. And he went out. Who? Ehud. And by the way, if our previous theory was right, well, at least not our theory, the one we're grabbing onto is right, then this is kind of nice because now the text is clarifying that kind of mysterious who the he is. The he is perhaps Ehud. So Ehud exited Hamis derona. So here we have another hapax, another word that we don't really know. No, we don't really know what it is. The root is seder, right? Which is to, like sadar, the verb sadar, to put in order, right? To put in order. Some scholars change it to sagar, right? But seder, so a misda could be like part of the structure that he's exiting from, right? Like a portico or something. Targum Yehonatan translates it as hallway. So maybe we'll just go that out. We'll go with that. And it again has a hey locative at the end. So that makes sense for the verb yatzah. Ehud went out the hallway, or whatever the misda was, some lost architectural term to us. Although Sasson makes an interesting comment that, referencing another scholar, Halpern, that the Arabic sadira, allegedly meaning to be blinded or puzzled, maybe this helps us to unlock this root as some kind of remarkable hidden or hollow structure, a shaft attached beneath the toilet through which Ehud makes his escape. And that would actually work if we had him going through the shiza thing, right? So maybe like the hole of the toilet, right? Oh, and by the way, that other word, there's a similar Akkadian word root that does mean hole. So it could be like the hole where the person sat, and now he's going through the tube that the shiza would actually go out. He's escaping. Okay. Gross to think about, but I don't know. I feel like this is probably the best interpretation. Vayisgol, and he closed daltot. This is construct. So daltot from delit, dalit, lamed, tav. A delit is a door. Daltot are doors. He closed doors of ha-aliyah, of the chamber, or the upper chamber. So because the last word is ha, we can transmit that to the first word in the chain. So daltot ha-aliyah is the daltot of the aliyah, the doors of the chamber, upper chamber. بعدو. It's like on his account, but behind him kind of makes sense here. Ve-na-al. Ve-na-al. Nun Ayin Lamed is related to the word for sandal, right? Like shoes back then. So presumably this means like to strap it, like he's the na, like he secured it with straps, right? He secured it. He strapped them shut. Vayetze Ehud, then Ehud exited, or he went out, ha misderona, towards the Shiza shoot, maybe. Keeps the place in order. Vayusgol, and he closed, daltot ha aliyah, the doors of the aliyah, of the chamber, of the upper chamber. Ba'ado, on his account. Okay? Like for himself, not like to help the other guy, like he cares someone sees him. Na'al, and he secured it, perhaps with straps from the outside. All right, let's just read through all of it, all 3 verses one more time, and then we'll be done. Let me get a quick drink. Judges chapter 3, verse 21. This time I'm just going to read it, and you try to understand, all right? And we'll be finished. Vayishlach Ehud et yad שמאלו ויקח, from לקח, את החרב מעל ירך ימינו ויתקעה, or ויתקעה, taka, to thrust, בבטנו, in the beten of O. Verse 22. Vayovo gam hanitzav. I feel like I should translate some. And also entered the hills. Achar hal lahav. Achar, after, hal lahav, after the flame, after the blade. Vayusgol hacheliv. And the fat shut, or like shut over, be'ad halahav, on account of the blade, or because of the blade. Why? Here we go. Because lo shalaf hacherev, because he had not withdrawn the cherev, mibitno, from the beten of O. Vayetze haparsadona, and he exited the shiza hole, towards the shiza hole. Verse 23. Vayetze Ehud hamisderona. Then Ehud yatzad, he exited hamisderona, through the shiza shoot, presumably. Vayusgol, and he closed daltot ha'aliyah, the doors of the upper chamber, ba'ado, on his account, then na'al, and he secured it, i.e., like strapped it shut. Now, the stuff is a bit out of order if we're doing shiza shoot and all this stuff. Like, wouldn't you have done that before he went out the shiza shoot? So, I think it still works. Like, the narrator's just kind of giving it as an afterthought. One more time through. This time I'll go at normal speed and I won't translate. Okay? Verse 21. Vayishlach Ehud et yad שמאלו, ויקח את החרב מעל ירך ימינו, ויתקעה בבטנו. 22. ויבוא גם הניצב אחר הלהב, ויסגור החלב בעד הלהב, כי לא שלף החרב מבטנו, ויצא הפרסדונה. Verse 23. ויצא אהוד המסדרונה, ויסגור דלתות העלייה בעדו ונעל. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed. And let me just put up my Patreon, please, if you like what we're doing here and you'd consider becoming a patron. I would greatly appreciate it. We always have costs, we have expenses, we have a family, all that good stuff. And we like to do tzedakah as well, charities and projects and stuff here. So if you want to become a monthly supporter, you can go to patreon.com/Hebrew Literacy and sign up. Or if you just want to buy my book, you get my book over there, and that's much appreciated. If you want to do a one-time gift just to help us out at Amazon.com, you can always get a gift certificate and just send that to my email, which is usually in the description here. All right. Hope you guys have been blessed, and I will see you tomorrow. I haven't decided what we'll do tomorrow since we missed Monday. Maybe First Kings. Usually I don't ever skip the Torah, but I think we have some exciting stuff happening in First Kings, so maybe we'll do First Kings. Let's see. We'll see. Shalom, shalom.